Chief Engineer Kate Morrison pressed her forehead against the cool glass of New Shanghai Orbital's observation deck, watching the endless dance of repair drones around a Centaurian merchant vessel. The massive structure of the repair dock stretched before her, a testament to human engineering that somehow still looked delicate against the backdrop of stars. Her fourth consecutive night shift was hitting hard, and the coffee in her universe's okayest engineer mug had long since gone cold. "Chief, we've got something weird on long-range sensors." Tommy Garcia's voice crackled through her comm unit. The young sensor operator had a talent for understatement that usually meant trouble. Kate straightened, her tired muscles protesting. "Define weird, Tommy." "Ma'am, it's giving off energy signatures I've never seen before. Massive ship, coming in hot on a suboptimal vector. Wait." A pause filled with rapid typing. "Holy shit, it's scary." The coffee mug slipped from Kate's fingers, clattering against the deck. The Sktheri, crystalline ships, quantum-locked hulls, and engineering so advanced it might as well be magic. They never came to human space. Never. Warning klaxons shattered the station's normal hum as the massive vessel dropped out of FTL. Kate's breath caught in her throat. The ship was beautiful, its crystalline hull catching starlight like a diamond sculpture. But something was wrong. Fracture patterns spread across its surface like spider webs in frost, pulsing with unstable energy. "All hands, emergency stations." Kate barked into her comm as she sprinted toward the main engineering bay. "I want every senior engineer suited up and ready in 5 minutes. Tommy, get me a direct line to that ship." The station's corridors blurred past as she ran, her mind racing through possibilities. Crystalline hull technology was theoretical in human engineering, something they'd barely begun to understand. The Sktheri were centuries ahead, and they knew it. For them to show up here. "Engineering base secure, Chief," reported Jessica Chen, her deputy, as Kate burst through the doors. "But you should see these readings." A holographic display filled the center of the bay, showing real-time scans of the Sktheri vessel. The fracture patterns were spreading, each crack resonating with dangerous harmonics. "This is New Shanghai Orbital to Sktheri vessel," Kate broadcast, hoping their universal translators were working. "We're reading critical hull integrity issues. Do you require assistance?" The response came in perfect English, tinged with what could only be described as desperate pride. "Human station. This is Commander Ixel of the crystalline ship Dawn Seeker. We require your facilities." Kate's team exchanged glances. The Sktheri were notorious for their technological arrogance. Asking humans for help was unprecedented. "Commander, we're happy to assist. Can you transmit your repair protocols?" A bitter laugh came through the comm. "Our protocols have failed, Engineer. Our self-repair systems are non-functional, and our diagnostic AI cannot identify the cascade source. We have 12,000 souls aboard, and our hull integrity is at 18% and falling. Help us, or condemn us to death." Kate's mind raced. Standard procedures wouldn't work on technology this advanced. But physics was physics, engineering was engineering, and sometimes the simplest solutions. "Commander, prepare for emergency docking." "Tommy, clear Bay 7. I want everything non-essential out." "Jess, get me every piece of scanning equipment we've got. And somebody find me Dr. Reynolds. If anyone understands crystalline structural mechanics, it's her." The massive bay doors slowly parted as the Sktheri ship limped toward them. Up close, the damage was even more spectacular and terrifying. The fractures had spread to cover nearly a third of the hull, each crack threatening to split the mighty vessel apart. "Chief," Tommy's voice was tight with concern, "their hull resonance is becoming unstable. If those fractures hit a harmonic frequency, they'll shatter like a wine glass in an opera house," Kate finished. She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and smiled. This was exactly the kind of impossible problem she lived for. "All right, people, Let's show these folks why human repair docs are about to become famous. Time to do the impossible. Kate stood before the towering crystalline hull of the Dawn Seeker, her reflection distorted in its fractured surface. Behind her, a cluster of Scytheri engineers hovered, their iridescent bodies shifting with barely contained anxiety. Their leader, Chief Engineer Vexna, watched through multifaceted eyes as Kate ran her gloved hand along a major fracture line. Please refrain from touching the quantum-locked surface, Vexna chittered through the translator. Our hull requires specialized quantum harmonic tools to. Got a hammer in my toolkit, Kate interrupted, pulling out an old-fashioned rubber mallet. The Scytheri engineers recoiled in collective horror. You cannot be serious. Vexna's translator struggled to convey their mix of horror and disdain. That is a primitive impact tool. Our hull is composed of quantum-aligned crystal matrices. Kate tapped the hull lightly, listening to the resonance. Jess, what's the reading on harmonic frequency? Jessica Chen, suspended in her zero harness nearby, checked her modified sonic analyzer. Primary fractures resonating at 432 Hz, Chief. Secondary patterns show varying harmonics, but they're all multiples of the base frequency. Just like a cracked wine glass, Kate muttered, then turned to her team. Tommy, get me the sonic dampening equipment from Bay 4. Dr. Reynolds, remember that paper you wrote about crystalline stress patterns in zero-G environments? The materials scientist nodded, her eyes lighting up with understanding. The pressure wave distribution theory. But that was purely theoretical. Theory, meet practice. Kate gestured at the massive hull. How do you feel about testing it on a trillion-credit starship? The Scytheri delegation erupted in protests, their crystalline bodies flickering with alarm patterns. Commander Ixel's voice cut through the chaos. Our vessel's automated systems have failed to repair these fractures. Our most advanced diagnostic AIs cannot even identify the cause. And you propose to solve this with percussion instruments. Kate pulled up a holographic display, showing the spreading fracture patterns. Your automated systems are actually making things worse. See these repair attempts. She pointed to areas where the crystal had been partially regenerated. They're creating harmonic interference patterns, like trying to fix a broken glass by making it vibrate more. Impossible, Vexna declared. Our systems are perfect. A sharp crack echoed through the bay as another fracture appeared. Warning lights flashed as the hull integrity dropped another percentage point. Perfect systems don't fail, Kate said firmly. Sometimes you need to step back from complexity and look at the basics. Dr. Reynolds, what happens to crystalline structures under quantum stress? They seek harmonic equilibrium, Reynolds answered, already calibrating her equipment. If we could introduce a countering resonance pattern, like noise-canceling headphones, but for quantum crystalline structures, Kate grinned. Tommy, get me those sonic dampeners. Jess, I want a full harmonic mapping of that hull. And somebody find me about 50 pounds of acoustic gel. The next hour was a symphony of unconventional engineering. Kate's team worked with practiced precision, applying acoustic gel in specific patterns, setting up sonic dampeners at calculated intervals, and carefully introducing counter-resonance waves. The Scytheri watched in stunned silence as these primitive techniques gradually stabilized their failing hull. Fracture propagation has stopped, Jessica announced, hull integrity holding at 17%. Now for the fun part. Kate hefted her rubber mallet. Time to reset these stress patterns the old-fashioned way. Dr. Reynolds, direct me to the nodes. What followed was something between surgery and percussion music. At precise points identified by Reynolds' calculations, Kate delivered carefully measured taps. Each impact sent ripples through the quantum crystal matrix, redirecting stress patterns, releasing built-up energy. The hull began to sing, a deep harmonic resonance that made the dock vibrate. Chief, Tommy called out, excitement in his voice. The crystalline structure is realigning itself. It's using our counter-resonance as a template for repair. Kate stepped back, watching as the fractures began to seal themselves, the crystal now growing in stable patterns rather than chaotic ones. She turned to the astonished Skithari delegation. Sometimes the most advanced solution isn't the right one. Your repair systems were too perfect, too complex. They couldn't see the simple answer. She patted her rubber mallet. Sometimes you just need to give things a little tap to remind them how they're supposed to be. Commander Ixel stepped forward, their crystalline form shimmering with what might have been respect. Perhaps we have something to learn from human engineering after all. You used what to fix their quantum drive. Kate pinched the bridge of her nose, staring at her newest apprentice mechanic through the holoscreen. Mike Chen grinned back, holding up a modified Earth vacuum cleaner. The high ship's quantum matrix was clogged with dimensional particles. Once I realized it was basically just space dust in the wrong dimension. Well, he shrugged. Had to modify the suction parameters a bit, but it worked. 3 weeks after the Skithari incident, New Shanghai Orbital had become the worst-kept secret in 5 sectors. The repair dock's waiting list stretched longer than Earth's orbit, with vessels from species Kate hadn't even heard of showing up daily. "Chief." Tommy's voice crackled through her comm. "We've got another emergency request. Medusan Heavy Cruiser says their plasma drive is going critical." Kate grabbed her toolkit. "Tell them Bay 12 is clear." "Jess, remember that issue we had with the 67 Mustang's fuel injection system? The one where the plasma kept backing up?" "Already grabbing the modified pressure regulators," Jessica replied, falling into step beside her. The Medusan ship was a sight to behold. Organic curves wrapped in living metal, its drive core pulsing an angry red through translucent hull sections. Its captain, a being of pure energy contained in an environmental suit, crackled with anxiety. "Our engineers say the containment field will fail within 3 hours," the captain's words translated into Kate's earpiece. "The automated systems cannot identify the fault." "Yeah, they wouldn't," Kate muttered, studying the readouts. "Your automation is too focused on the quantum mechanics. This is fluid dynamics gone wrong, just in really exotic fluid." She pulled up a holographic diagram, highlighting the plasma flow. "See this? Reminds me of what happens when you try to push too much fuel through a narrow injection port. The plasma's backing up because your flow regulators are fighting each other." The Medusan engineers exchanged glances through their containment suits. "But our systems are designed to work perfectly, yeah. But sometimes perfect is the enemy of good." Kate grabbed a piece of equipment from Jessica. "This is modified from an Earth muscle car. Old technology, but the principles are the same. Fluid is fluid, whether it's gasoline or nuclear plasma." What followed was a masterclass in cross-species engineering. Kate's team worked alongside the Medusans, teaching them to see their own technology through human eyes. The solution involved parts from 3 different species ships, a reprogrammed food replicator, and literal use of what Kate called percussive maintenance. "Plasma flow stabilizing," Tommy reported. "Temperature dropping to normal parameters." The Medusan captain's energy form swirled with relief. "Incredible. Our finest engineering minds said this was impossible without a complete drive replacement." "Sometimes you need fresh eyes," Kate said, wiping plasma residue off her hands. "And maybe a few old car parts." Back in her office, Kate found herself scrolling through an ever-growing list of repair requests. A hive-mind collective wanted help with their neural interface systems. A quantum nomad fleet needed their probability drives recalibrated. Even the notoriously secretive Crystal Sphere Collective was asking about maintenance contracts. "Message from the Skithari High Command," Tommy announced, popping his head through her door. They're requesting we host their junior engineers for training rotations." Kate nearly spilled her coffee. "The Skithari want to learn from us." "Not just them." Jessica walked in, holding a datapad. "We've got training requests from 12 different species. The Galactic Engineering Council is throwing a fit. Apparently, we're disrupting established technological hierarchies by proving their advanced systems aren't as perfect as they thought." Kate leaned back in her chair, a smile spreading across her face. You know what this means, right? We're going to need a bigger dock. And maybe some more coffee. And definitely more rubber mallets. Tommy added with a grin. Through her office window, Kate watched as another alien ship moved into position for repairs. Its design was like nothing she'd ever seen before, which meant another fascinating puzzle to solve, another chance to prove that sometimes the best solutions came from thinking outside the quantum box. Well, she said, reaching for her toolkit, let's show the galaxy what human engineering can really do. The alert came at 300 station time. Kate was elbow-deep in a hive mind ship's neural circuitry when the emergency klaxons began to wail. Chief. Tommy's voice was tight with panic. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. The sensors can't even count them all. Kate rushed to the observation deck, and her heart stopped. The void was filled with ships, a vast armada of vessels from dozens of species. Many were trailing plasma, their hulls scared and broken. Emergency beacons flashed in a cacophony of different warning protocols. This is the Confederation Defense Fleet, a strained voice broadcast on all frequencies. We have over 30,000 civilian refugees aboard. Multiple critical systems failing. Request immediate emergency docking. What's their status? Kate demanded, already running toward the main engineering bay. Jessica's voice crackled through the comm. Bad, Chief. Real bad. I'm seeing quantum core breaches, plasma containment failures, structural damage, and that's just on the military escorts. The civilian ships are in worse shape. Tommy, get me Fleet Command on the line. Jess, start coordinating with every repair dock in the sector. We're going to need help. Kate's mind raced through possibilities. And somebody wake up Dr. Reynolds. The fleet commander's hologram flickered to life in the engineering bay. The alien's tentacled form showed signs of severe stress. Engineer Morrison, we've heard of your unconventional successes. We have no choice but to trust in human ingenuity. Our fleet was ambushed by something we've never seen before. Weapons that ignored our shields, energy that corrupted our systems. How many different species ships are we dealing with? 37 distinct technological bases, with hundreds of hybrid systems. Our own attempts at repairs have failed. The systems are too incompatible. Kate looked at the diagnostic readings flooding her screens. The damage was unlike anything she'd seen before. Each ship's problems were unique, requiring different solutions, different approaches. Right. She squared her shoulders. Tommy, get every engineering student from the academy up here. Jess, I want every retired engineer within 10 light years. We're going to need everyone. The next 12 hours were a blur of impossible problems and desperate solutions. Kate split her team into specialized units, each tackling different categories of repairs. They converted empty cargo bays into trade centers for damaged ships. The Radiant Path's quantum core is going critical, a young engineer shouted. Use the gravitational fields from the Medusan ships to contain it. Kate called back, not looking up from her own work. Their fields can be tuned to any frequency. Dr. Reynolds proved it last week. In Bay 7, Mike was teaching a group of alien engineers how to repurpose Earth mining equipment to patch quantum hull breaches. In Bay 12, Jessica had rigged a series of modified food replicators to produce replacement parts for a dozen different technological bases. Chief, Tommy's voice was quiet. The civilian ships were picking up life support failures. Kate wiped sweat from her forehead, leaving a streak of electrical grease. Patch me through to all ships. She took a deep breath. This is Chief Engineer Morrison. I know you're scared. I know your systems are failing. But right now, I need you all to trust us. We're going to try something that's never been done before. Her team watched as she pulled up a holographic diagram of the entire fleet. We're going to link all your ships together. Create one massive support network. Each ship's working systems will help compensate for the other's failures. It's going to look messy, It's going to break about 100 different engineering protocols, but it's going to work. The alien engineers started to protest, but Kate held up a hand. The rules of physics are the same everywhere. Energy is energy. Matter is matter. And right now, we're going to prove that human engineering isn't about having the most advanced technology. It's about understanding the basics so well that you can make anything work with anything else. She looked at her team, saw the determination in their eyes. Let's make history. This is either brilliance or madness, Dr. Reynolds muttered, reviewing Kate's hastily drawn schematics. The holographic display showed thousands of ships interconnected by a web of energy transfers and system links. Sometimes they're the same thing, Kate replied, directing teams of engineers through her comm unit. Bay 4, how's that power distribution hub coming along? Mike's voice crackled back. Ready, Chief. Though I still think using modified coffee makers as power regulators is a bit weird. Earth coffee makers are the most reliable power regulation systems humanity ever built, Kate said with a grin. They have to be, or we'd never survive mornings. Now link them into the Hive ship's neural network. The massive operation was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Around them, thousands of refugee ships hung in space, connected by improvised power conduits and jury-rigged system interfaces. Kate's solution was audacious. Turn the entire fleet into one massive, interdependent organism. Quantum core stability at 30%. Jessica called out from her station. The Medusan containment fields are helping, but we're losing ground on the outer ships. Kate studied the power flow diagrams. Redirect energy from the crystal sphere vessels through the modified coffee makers. Their quantum harmonics should smooth out the power fluctuations. Chief, Tommy interrupted. The Scatheri engineers are demanding to speak with you. They say what we're doing is impossible and violates 16 different laws of physics. Tell them physics doesn't care about their laws, Kate replied, climbing into a maintenance suit. I'm heading out to the hub junction. The power flow needs manual adjustment. Space around New Shanghai Orbital had become a spider's web of emergency connections. Ships of every size and design were linked together, sharing power, life support, and structural integrity fields. Kate spacewalked through this mechanical maze, watching energy pulse through the connections like blood through veins. Dr. Reynolds, remember that paper you wrote about quantum entanglement in coffee? Kate asked, reaching the main power hub. That was a joke paper for the Academy's humor journal. Well, your joke just gave me an idea. The quantum cores aren't failing because of damage. They're failing because they're out of sync, like a room full of metronomes on different beats. Kate began adjusting the modified coffee makers, their familiar heating elements now regulating quantum energy flows. In basic physics, everything wants to synchronize. Pendulums, waves, even quantum fields. We just need to give them a pattern to follow. She pulled out her trusty rubber mallet. The Scatheri observation team watching through cameras collectively flinched. Chief, Jessica's voice was worried. You're not going to. The sound of the mallet striking the power hub rang through the comm. Once, twice, 3 times, each hit precisely timed to the pulse of energy flowing through the system. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like orchestral instruments finding harmony, the quantum cores throughout the fleet began to synchronize. Power levels stabilized. Emergency alarms fell silent. Quantum core stability rising. Tommy reported excitedly. 40%, 60, 85%. Whatever you did, it's working. Kate watched as the energy web around her pulsed with steady rhythm. Sometimes you need to remind quantum mechanics who's boss. Reynolds, your joke paper just saved 30,000 lives. Back in the station, Kate found herself facing a crowd of alien engineers. The Scatheri spokesperson stepped forward. We have reviewed your methods, they said carefully. While they violate numerous established principles, we cannot deny their effectiveness. The Confederation Defense Fleet's Science Council requests your presence at an emergency session. Kate raised an eyebrow. Can it wait until I've had coffee? The station's best coffee makers are all being used to regulate quantum cores at the moment. This is serious, Engineer Morrison. Your solutions challenge everything we thought we knew about technological integration. The implications are that sometimes the simplest solution is the best one, Kate interrupted. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have 30,000 refugees who need their ships repaired properly, not just stabilized. Anyone want to learn how to rebuild a quantum core using spare parts from an Earth washing machine? The silence that followed was broken by a young Scatheri engineer stepping forward. I would like to learn. Kate smiled. The galaxy was about to discover that human engineering wasn't just about fixing ships. It was about breaking down barriers between species, one impossible repair at a time. And that's why you never trust an automated diagnostic system more than your own senses, Kate explained, watching her mixed class of human and alien engineering students examine the damaged quantum drive. The piece of equipment had been salvaged from one of the refugee ships, its crystalline matrices dulled and fractured. 3 weeks had passed since the Great Fleet rescue, and New Shanghai Orbital had transformed. Every available space had become a classroom, a workshop, or an impromptu cultural exchange center. Species that once barely acknowledged each other's existence now worked side by side, sharing centuries of accumulated knowledge. But the quantum harmonics clearly indicate, a young Scatheri engineer began. Forget the readings, Kate interrupted, tapping the drive housing with her knuckle. Listen to that resonance. What does it tell you? The Scatheri tilted their crystalline head, multifaceted eyes shifting in confusion. A Medusan student, their energy form flickering with sudden understanding, spoke up. It's like the vibration in my species' plasma drives when the flow regulators need calibration. Exactly, Kate beamed. Different technology, same basic principles. Physics doesn't care what species built the engine. The observation deck had been converted into a massive shared workspace. In one corner, Dr. Reynolds was teaching a group of crystal sphere engineers about Earth's history of materials science, from bronze casting to quantum crystallography. Their normally reserved demeanor had given way to genuine enthusiasm as they discovered how human primitive steps had led to revolutionary insights. "Chief," Tommy called from his workstation, "you're going to want to see this. The Scatheri High Command just issued a new engineering directive." Kate walked over, reading the holographic announcement with growing amazement. The Scatheri, proud guardians of what they'd considered the galaxy's most advanced engineering principles, were officially incorporating human methodologies into their training programs. "They're calling it Fundamental Understanding Integration," Jessica said, joining them. Basically, they're admitting that knowing how to improvise with basic tools is just as important as having advanced technology. "And check this out," Mike added, pulling up another report. "The Medusan Engineering Corps is requesting permission to study Earth's historical technical documents. They want to understand how we progressed from steam engines to quantum drives in just a few centuries." Kate watched as a group of her students successfully repaired a damaged neural interface using parts from an old Earth smartphone. The HiveMind engineers observing the process were recording everything, their collective consciousness buzzing with excitement at the possibilities. "It's not just about the repairs anymore," Dr. Reynolds said, joining Kate at the window. "We're watching the birth of a whole new engineering philosophy. The galaxy is finally realizing that innovation isn't about having the most advanced starting point. It's about understanding the fundamentals so well that you can work with anything." A commotion near the main entrance drew their attention. A delegation of quantum nomads, their probability-shifted forms flickering between states of existence, had arrived with an unprecedented request. Engineer Morrison. Their spokesperson's voice resonated across multiple probability states. "We have observed your methods. Our predictive engines calculate a 99.9% probability that the galaxy's engineering future lies in combining our advanced theories with human practical understanding. We request permission to establish a permanent exchange program." Kate smiled, remembering how just weeks ago, most of these species wouldn't have dreamed of learning from primitive humans. Now they were lining up to learn the very basics they'd once dismissed. "You know what this means?" she asked her team. "We're going to need more coffee makers. And rubber mallets," Tommy added with a grin. "And patience," Jessica sighed, watching a young Scatheri engineer accidentally shatter a quantum crystal by tapping it too hard with their newly acquired mallet. Lots of patience. Through the window, Kate could see the refugee fleet, its ships still connected by her improvised power-sharing network. What had started as an emergency solution was evolving into something more, a symbol of how different species could work together, combining the best of their knowledge and methods. "Well," she said, picking up her toolkit, "let's show them what human engineering is really about, one impossible repair at a time." Kate was halfway through her morning coffee when the stars began to vanish. "Chief," Tommy's voice cracked with panic over the comm. "The local star's radiation patterns are going crazy. Something's wrong with its fusion core." She sprinted to the observation deck, where a crowd of human and alien engineers had gathered. Through the reinforced windows, they watched as their sun's normally steady light flickered and pulsed. Dr. Reynolds was already there, her holographic displays showing a cascade of alarming data. The star's entering an artificial nova state. Someone or something has destabilized its fusion reactions. "How long do we have?" Kate demanded, her mind already racing through possibilities. "Hours, maybe less. The refugee fleet is still here, over 30,000 civilians, and most of their ships still aren't fully repaired." The Confederation Defense Fleet commander materialized in holographic form. "Our scientists confirm your readings. Standard evacuation protocols won't work. We have too many damaged ships, and the nearest safe system is 10 light-years away." Kate looked around the room at her mixed team of human and alien engineers. Weeks of working together had turned them into something unique in the galaxy, a group that combined advanced alien theory with human practical innovation. "We're not evacuating," she announced. "We're going to stop a star from going nova." The room erupted in overlapping protests. A Scatheri engineer stepped forward, their crystalline form vibrating with concern. "Engineer Morrison, even with our most advanced technology, stabilizing a star is impossible." "Impossible is what we do best," Kate interrupted. She turned to her team. "Mike, remember how we stabilized that quantum core cascade last week? Using modified coffee makers and gravitational fields." "But Chief, that was just one ship's power core, not an entire star." "Same principles, different scale." Kate pulled up a holographic model of the star. "Dr. Reynolds, your research on quantum harmonics in crystalline structures, could we apply it to plasma containment?" Reynolds' eyes widened. "Theoretically, yes. The sun's fusion core operates on similar principles to the Medusan plasma drives, just on a stellar scale." "Right." Kate's fingers flew over the control panel. "Here's the plan. We're going to use every ship in the refugee fleet to create the biggest containment field ever attempted. The Medusan vessels will provide the base field structure. Crystal sphere ships will amplify it through their quantum matrices." She turned to the HiveMind engineers. "Your neural networks can coordinate the field adjustments faster than any computer. The quantum nomads probability drives can help us predict and counter the nova cascade." "And the coffee makers?" Tommy asked with a nervous smile. "Those too, along with every other piece of equipment we can modify. We're going to need it all." Kate looked at her diverse team. "This is what we've been training for. Human ingenuity combined with alien technology. Basic principles applied to an impossible problem." The next 2 hours were a blur of frantic activity. Ships moved into position around the star, forming geometric patterns based on Earth's ancient sacred geometry. Patterns that, as Kate explained, naturally reinforced energy fields. The space around New Shanghai Orbital became a web of power conduits and field generators. "Star core temperature still rising," Jessica reported. "Fusion reactions becoming unstable." Kate stood at the control hub, surrounded by holographic displays. Around her, Human and alien engineers worked in perfect synchronization, centuries of different engineering traditions coming together in one desperate effort. Containment field at maximum power, a Medusan engineer announced. But the harmonics aren't matching the solar frequency. Kate reached for her rubber mallet, earning knowing looks from her alien colleagues. Sometimes, she said, you need to give the universe a little tap to remind it how things should be. The mallet struck the main power coupling, sending a precisely calculated shockwave through the entire network. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a massive orchestra finding its rhythm, the containment fields began to synchronize with the star's natural frequency. Core temperature stabilizing, Tommy reported, his voice filled with disbelief. The Nova Cascade it's reversing. Through the observation window, they watched as their sun's light steadied, returning to its normal, life-giving glow. Kate looked at her team, humans and aliens together, their differences forgotten in the face of an impossible challenge overcome. Engineering, she said softly, isn't about having the most advanced technology. It's about understanding the universe well enough to work with it, not against it. 1 year later, Kate stood at the podium of New Shanghai Orbital's newly constructed Grand Amphitheater, looking out at the most diverse graduating class the galaxy had ever seen. Hundreds of engineers from 37 species sat before her, each wearing the distinctive tool belt that had become the symbol of their revolutionary program. When I first used a rubber mallet to fix a quantum drive, she began, earning knowing chuckles from the audience. The Scatheri thought we were crazy. Now I see their engineers carrying their own mallets, though they've improved them with quantum harmonics, of course. The crystalline forms of the Scatheri students shimmed with amusement. Their traditional rigid thinking had given way to a new philosophy that combined their advanced technology with human practical wisdom. Look around you, Kate continued, gesturing to the station visible through the amphitheater's vast windows. 1 year ago, this was just a repair dock. Now it's the galaxy's premier engineering academy. New Shanghai Orbital had grown beyond recognition. The original repair bays had been joined by massive new facilities, each dedicated to different aspects of the new unified engineering approach. In one section, Medusan plasma specialists worked alongside human mechanics, combining their understanding of exotic energy with practical Earth solutions. In another, crystal sphere quantum theorists collaborated with human materials scientists, developing new technologies that merged the best of both worlds. But more importantly, Kate said, look at yourselves. You're not just engineers anymore. You're pioneers of a new way of thinking about technology and problem solving. Dr. Reynolds, now the head of the Academy's research division, smiled from her seat in the front row. Her joke paper about quantum harmonics in coffee had spawned an entire new field of study. Behind her sat Mike, Tommy, and Jessica, each now leading their own departments but still carrying their original toolkits. The galaxy used to think that advancement meant making things more complex, more automated, more removed from basic principles, Kate continued. We prove that true innovation comes from understanding the fundamentals so well that you can apply them to any problem, at any scale. She gestured to the viewport, where ships of all designs moved smoothly through space. The containment field that had saved their star had led to breakthroughs in energy management across dozens of technologies. The refugee fleet's emergency power-sharing network had evolved into a standard feature of space stations throughout the galaxy. Your final projects proved this beyond any doubt. The hive mind collective that rebuilt their neural interfaces using principles from Earth's old telephone networks. The quantum nomads who stabilized their probability drives using modified Earth seismology equipment. The human students who integrated crystal sphere quantum theory into basic mechanical repairs. Kate picked up her trusty rubber mallet from the podium. This is still my favorite tool. Not because it's the best or the most advanced, but because it reminds me that sometimes the simplest solution is the right one. Each of you has your own version now. Tools that represent where you came from and what you've learned here. She looked out at her students with pride. You're about to graduate from this academy and return to your homeworlds. Some of you will build new repair docks. Others will design ships that combine technologies in ways we never imagined possible. Many of you will become teachers, spreading this new philosophy of engineering across the galaxy. The Scathari valedictorians stood up, their crystalline form glowing with purpose. We came here believing we had nothing to learn from humans. We leave understanding that true wisdom comes not from the complexity of our tools, but from how well we understand their basic principles. Kate nodded. That's the legacy of human engineering. Not that we're the best or the most advanced, but that we never forgot the importance of understanding the basics. Every problem, no matter how complex, can be solved if you understand the fundamental principles at work. She raised her mallet high. Now go out there and fix the impossible. And remember, when in doubt, give it a tap and listen to what the universe tells you. The amphitheater erupted in cheers, hundreds of mallets raised in salute. Human ingenuity had done more than save ships and stars. It had built bridges between species and revolutionized how the galaxy approached technology. As Kate watched her students celebrate, she smiled. The future of engineering would be built on the perfect blend of advanced theory and practical wisdom, of alien technology and human ingenuity. And somewhere out there, a ship was probably waiting for someone to fix it with nothing more than basic tools and impossible determination.